day, everyone. We are the Group 7 and we are here to report our topic, which is entitled The Silent Way. So, the silent way is an approach that is being used by some teachers and educators in teaching their students, specifically their foreigner students who wants to learn the language or the English language. And I know some of you or most of you are wondering how does the teacher uses this approach in teaching if from the word itself or if there is the word silent in the approach, right? Silent way. Paano matuturo ang teacher through silence? Diba? But that is the uniqueness of this approach because through this approach, the students learn. The students learned the language effectively and efficiently. Kaya dito pala makikita natin na effective pala ang approach na ito. Because there are some teachers or educators up until now who are using this approach in teaching their students. And syempre, hindi ko gusto na spoil kayo sa topic namin kaagad. Kaya naman, yun lang muna ang masasabi ko tungkol sa aming topic. And later on, you will witness or you will learn about this approach or this distinct and unique approach. But before we officially start, we prepared here a quotation and I want all of you to remember and to be reminded about this quotation, especially that we are all or most of us wants to become an educator someday. So this quotation says, learning should be interactive and collaborative rather than authoritative and passive. Do you agree to this quotation? I know most of you agrees to this quotation or even all of us agree to this quotation. Kasi sino ba naman hindi mag-a-agree sa quotation na ito? Sino ba naman teacher ang gugustuhin na magkaroon ng passive and dull discussion with their students rather than active teaching and learning process with their student, diba? Yes, it is important for us to also have that authority to our students so that our student will listen to us. But too much authority can cause fear to our students. Maaaring maging uncomfortable sila sa atin and maaaring hindi lalo silang maging active sa ating lessons. Kaya naman, we should also compress our authority nang sa gayon ay mas maging comfortable ang ating students sa ating magiging discussion and mas magiging interactive and collaborative din ang ating discussion. So, I want all of you to remember this quotation kasi this quotation is related to our topic. Ito yung ine-emphasize, ito yung goal ng approach na the silent way. To provide a learning that is interactive and collaborative rather than authoritative and passive. So for the first part, we have the introduction and we have here Mr. Openya to discuss the introduction of our topic.
What is the silent way? The silent way, it is a problem-solving approach that emphasizes the student independence, collaboration, and cooperativeness inside the classroom. So, bakit nga ba muna tinawag na the silent way? Because in silent way, the teacher should be silent as possible in the classroom in order to encourage the learner to produce as much language as possible. As in, hindi po talaga iimik dito yung guro hanggat maaari. And therefore, students are also encouraged to discover knowledge by themselves. The silent way method is using color coding, and later we will discuss what color coding is. The silent way is the unique method of teaching language through color coding and sound color chart. So, who founded the silent way? The founder of the silent way is Caleb Categno. He is an Egyptian mathematics teacher, known for his innovative methods and approaches to teaching and learning mathematics, foreign vocabulary, and reading. He established the silent ways as an approach to language learning in 1970, conveying many of the same fundamental principles and code as the cognitive code, while effectively using and considering some ideas and theories under the discovery of approach. He is also best known for introducing new approaches to teaching and learning mathematics and language. At isa na nga po dito yung the silent way. So si Caleb Egno po pala hindi lang po pala siya magaling na teacher. Isa din po pala siya sa mga gumagawa ng paraan po para mas mapadali yung pagkakatuto ng mga estudyante. He produced also for teaching and learning in mathematics yung visible and tangible math. Sa foreign languages naman po yun yung the silent way. That's why he also considered one of the most influential and prolific educator of the 20th century. The famous line of the Kategno is, "I don't teach and I let them learn." Based on what he said, it is also the objectives of the silent way. This approach uses different materials or objects that can be described by its color, size, or identification, like smart-coded rods of verifying length and color-coded word chart. And later, we will discuss what is the color-coded chart. The essence of this approach is to let the learners learn by themselves. Based on favorite line of Caleb Kategno, "I don't teach and I let them learn." The teacher will let their student to learn language based on their insight. It is a unique and distinct approach. Hence, it is the first of its kind. Focuses on cognitive principle in language learning. It's a really unique method because even though the teacher is not talking, but the students are still learning on just looking and understanding the small color rods and color-coded word chart. And now, we will proceed the objectives of the silent way. First, it aims to transform the students into independent and experimental learners. Second, let the students learn on their own without manipulating them. And the third, let the students have their mistakes and let the students solve them on their own. And the fourth is, let the students test their ideas, hypotheses, and judgment about the language through a trial and error approach, and facilitates activities where the students learn and observe the rules of the language rather than memorizing it. Because the teacher does not speak unless necessary, it seems like leaving the students to learn on their own, and is the main objective of the silent way. And ayon kay Brown, defines this is a method whereby students create conceptual hierarchies or orders of their own which are a result or outcome of the time that they have invested. Dahil nga po ang silent ways is producing the independent learners, because the hierarchy means organized or in order, so the student will combine each idea and will organize based on their importance, and the learners will invest time to construct the concept of idea. And may sinabi din po si Larsen Freeman, it emphasized that it is essential to enable students to perform as a group, to try and solve crises in the target language together. Sabi naman po ni Larsen Freeman encouraged learners to try and solve the problem of the language in collaborating.
So now let us proceed to the key features of the silent way. So for the first key feature of the silent way, learning is facilitated if the learner discovers or creates rather than remembers and repeats what is to be learned. Diba? Yes, meron pa rin namang mga teachers na even though they are not using this approach, they tend to help their students to discover. But here in the silent way, ito yung essence nila. Ito yung ine-emphasize at pinapractice ng teacher sa kanyang mga students. The teacher help his or her students to discover and create their own ideas and understanding about the language. Paano? Paano ba ang pagkakaiba ng remembering and repeating kung ano ba ang sinisimbolize noong figure na iyon or noong shape na iyon, noong color na iyon? That is what they are going to do. Hindi nakalagay mismo yung word. Hindi nakalagay mismo yung letter. What they're going to do is they need to discover kung ano ba ang sinisimbolize noong nasa chart na iyon. And I will not elaborate muna kung ano ba yung tinutukoy kong chart. Siguro napapaisip kayo, ano yung chart na yun? Anong meron doon? Because later on, I will discuss about that specific chart. And for our second feature, we have the learning is facilitated by accompanying or mediating physical objects. So, ang teachers ay gumagamit din ng mga physical objects. Maaaring tunay na gamit, kagaya ng for example, ito, ano ba ito? Ito ay isang lotion. Maaaring ang gagawin ng teacher is to present this lotion in front of the class. But he will not talk. He will just present it like this. Then, the students need to discover anong gustong iparating ni teacher. Does he want us to describe or does he want us to determine kung ano yung object na ito? So, some students will have different understanding. Some student will say, a lotion. Or some student will say, an aurora lotion. A lotion in a white bottle. Diba? Doon pala makikita natin, ang mga students pala merong different understanding and perspective when it comes to learning. Diba? They discover things in different way, in their own way. Ang gagawin lang ng teacher, accompanying the students using the physical objects. Diba? Kaya kung makikita ninyo, napaka-tricky ng approach na ito. Parang napaka-complex, napaka-hirap gawin or i-implement as a teacher. Kasi hindi ka masyado magsasalita. You are mostly silence. Kung magsasalita ka man, mag-i-instruct ka lang sa students mo. You will just instruct them about the activity before you do the activity. But while you are in the activity or amidst the activity, most of the time you are silenced. So lastly, we have the learning is facilitated by problem solving involving the material to be learned. Problem solving. Diba sa problem solving, before we solve the problem, we need to discover. We need to create our own hypothesis, our own understanding about the topic or about a certain situation na kailangan nating isolve. At ito nga po ang ine-emphasize or ang essence ng the silent way. Kasi nga, di ba they are using different materials na kung saan hindi nakalagay doon lahat yung mga learnings or yung mga lessons na kailangang aralin ng students. They need to discover first. They need to criticize first. They need to solve the puzzle first. Ano nga ba ang tinutukoy or sinisimbolismo ng isang figure, ng isang shape, ng isang color, ng isang object na ito? Ano nga ba ang nais iparating ng aking teacher? Ano yung dapat or ano yung nais iparating ng teacher sa kanyang mga students, why he is presenting that object, why he is pointing to that chart, to that certain spot, to that chart. Why is the teacher doing that? And that is what the students need to solve. That's why that is the essence, or that is one of the characteristic of the silent way. The silent way helps the students to become a problem solver, a critical thinker. It helps the students to formulate their own ideas independently. Ito ang tinuturo ng approach na ito, to help the students to become independent problem solver and critical thinker. And the teacher are only the facilitator. And now let us proceed to the typical techniques. And as you can see here, there is a book entitled Techniques and Principles in Language Teaching by Diane Larsen Freeman. So Diane Larsen Freeman is the author of this book. She is also a professor, specifically a linguistic professor. And dun pa lang, alam na natin, that's the sign kung bakit pinublish niya itong book na ito, which is also about language. Specifically about language teaching, wherein this book helps the educators or the future educators in teaching their lesson, specifically their language lesson to their students, na kung saan ang nilalaman ng books na ito, in the title itself, it provides different techniques, principles about the language teaching, kung saan naririto yung iba't ibang strategy, methods, iba't ibang values na kailangan natin sundin o isagawa ng sagaya maging effective ang ating teaching sa ating mga students. And alam niyo po ba na ang librong ito ay meron ding mga techniques and principles na related sa ating approach, which is the silent way. Ngayon, you will discover some of the techniques and principle, but only the summary version about the silent way. Let's proceed to the first part of the typical techniques. And as you can see here, we have the sound color chart. Ito yung chart na dinidiscuss ko sa inyo kanina, but I cannot elaborate about it kasi nga I don't want to spoil you kung ano nga ba yung chart na iyon. So this chart is an instructional material. Itong material na ito ay ginagamit ng the silent way teacher in teaching the language to their students. So as you can see here, there are different colors. And each color symbolizes something. And it depends to the teacher. Maaaring it symbolizes a letter, it symbolizes a word, maaaring it symbolizes a phrase. So it depends to the teacher, and it depends also to the students. Kung ang student ay beginner pa lang, syempre dapat magsimula muna ang teacher sa pagtuturo ng letters and sounds sa students before mag-adjust at mag-level up sa mas mahirap na topic, di ba? So for example, beginner pa lang yung mga students. So the teacher uses this sound color chart. And this sound color chart is divided into two. Ang nagdi-divide dito ay yung line kung nakikita ninyo. So the upper part are the vowels and the lower part are the consonants. So kung makikita ninyo, bakit ang daming colors sa vowels? Diba, 5 lamang naman po ang vowels natin. Yes, we have 5 basic vowels. We have 5 vowels that we know. But those vowels can be combined. Diba? Merong vowels na AE, vowels na OU, vowels na AI, EI, vowels na IO, and iyon po, kaya marami itong colors na ito. Dahil kasama na rin dito yung combination ng each vowel. For example, ganito ang gagawin ng teacher dyan before magdi-discuss nitong part na to. Ang gagawin niya, syempre mag-instruct muna. After mag-instruct ng teacher, limited na lang yung pagsasalita niya. Kasi most of the time, magiging silent siya amidst the discussion or amidst the lesson. So, ganito, for example, ako yung teacher. I will instruct you to, for example, ako yung teacher, then i-instruct ko kayo na, everyone, this is a sound color chart. And this chart has different colors as you can see. And each color symbolizes each letters of the alphabet. And I want all of you to discover on what color here symbolizes a certain alphabet letter. So, try to discover and create your own ideas about the language. So, I want you to remember. So, I want you to discover on what. Guys, this sound color chart, as you can see here, there are different colors. And these colors, or each of these colors, symbolizes a letter. It can be a vowel letter or a consonant letter. And what I'm going to do is to point out to one of the colors that symbolize one of the alphabet letter. And what you're going to do is to discover kung ano nga ba yung color na nagsisimbolize doon sa certain letter na iyon and doon sa sound ng letter na iyon. Okay? Try to remember. And as you can see here, there are also two colors sa isang box or sa isang rectangle, right? And that colors symbolizes the two letters. Maaaring isa ay sa vowel at ang isa ay sa consonant. And kapag doon ako nag-point out, try to discover two kung ano nga ba yung vowel and consonant letters na iyon. Naintindihan ba ng lahat? And after that, hindi na ako iimek. Ang sabihin ko na lang before we start, can you tell me one, ang sabihin ko na lang before we start our activity ay magbigay ng vowel letters or one of the vowel letter. Then one of the students says A. Then I will point out to the color brown. I will not talk na. Point out to the color brown. Then one of the students says A. Tapos ang pinoint out ko yung pink. Next is O. Ang pinoint out ko yung purple, yung violet. Tapos U. Ang pinoint out ko yung blue. And what you're going to do is to discover kung ano nga ba yung color na iyon na nagsisimbolize sa letter na sinabi mo. Try to discover and create, formulate na ideas na ay, yun pala. Yun pala yung color na nagsisimbolize sa letter na yun. Diba? And dun pa papasok na meron pa rin remembering. Siyempre, kailangan mo pa rin i-remember after you discover, create, you need to remember kung ano naman yung letter na yun. Nasa ganyan kapag tinanong ka ni teacher, what word does this color symbolize? You will know the answer. You can answer the teacher, right? And iyon nga, meron nga po dito yung two colors na nagsisimbolize naman sa isang vowel at sa isang consonant. For example po, itong nasa may vowel part, yung white at pink. Diba? For example, yung white, it symbolizes letter O. Tapos yung pink ay nandito sa may consonant, then it symbolizes letter F. Ibig sabihin, ano yung word na mabubuo mo? Off. So, kapag doon ako nag-point out, yung teacher ay pag doon nag-point out, ang sasabihin ng student, off. And before na makapag-answer yung student, she needs to create her understanding first. Na kapag pala tumuro din yung student, alamin niya muna, ano nga yung white na yun? Letter O pala yun. Yung pink na to, nasa na nga yung pink na yun? Nasa may consonant part. Ano nga pa tong pink na to sa consonant? Letter F pala. Doon pa lang niya makakapag-create ng idea na, mali-discover niya na, off yung mabubuong word kapag yun ang pinagsama. Ibig sabihin, kapag nag-point out si teacher dun ulit, ang word na mabubuo ay off. Diba? Medyo tricky kung titingnan po natin. Napaka-tricky. Parang mas mahirap, mas confusing para sa students na matandaan, na maintindihan o maunawaan ang aralin. But, iyon nga ang purpose ng The Silent Way. Hindi nagmamadali ang The Silent Way teacher because she wants to provide a quality education rather than quantity. Hindi siya nagmamadali na maraming matutunan ang student tungkol sa sa kaniyang tinuturo, marami agad matutunan ang student na language, na words, no. Kasi ang gusto niya ay quality. Nasa gayon, mas matandaan, mas maunawaan ng estudyante ang lengguwahe. Hindi lang yung basta matututunan nila, matatandaan nila kung ano yung word na yun, kung ano yung letter na yun. They want, the teacher want the teacher want to provide a quality education na kung saan talagang mauunawaan ng maayos, unti-unti man, pero mauunawaan talaga ng estudyante ang kaniyang itinuturo. In a creative way pa ha, kung titingnan ninyo. Kasi most of the time, di ba, especially if you're teaching, for example, ako po, nag-tutor ako. Dati nag-tutor ako ng reading comprehension. Never ko naisip ang ganitong method. Kasi most of the time, ang nasa isip ko, magpo-provide ako ng instructional materials na may mga different letters, na may mga different words, na babasahin na lang ng estudyante ko. Na kung saan ako muna ang iimik, tapos tatandaan nila yung inimik ko. But here, I will let the student to discover their own kung ano nga ba ang language or kung ano nga ba ang letter na kailangan nilang aralin o na kailangan nilang matandaan o ma-discover. Diba? Mas tricky pero mas quality. So for the next part, we have the teacher's silence. Yan ang ini-emphasize talaga ng The Silent Way. Ito ang essence ng The Silent Way. Na kung saan ang teachers are most of the time ay silent sa kanilang klase. Kung iimik man po ang teacher ay dahil na lamang kailangan niya mag-instruct before the activity. O kaya naman ay kapag may katanungan na talaga ang student, syempre kailangan pa rin sumagot ng teacher. But most of the time, she or he is silent. Diba? And mapapatanong tayo, paano? Paano ka magtuturo? Paano matututo ang bata? Kung most of the time, silent tayo. Yan na nga. Kasi nga, we want our students to become independent in their learning. We want our students to observe, to criticize, to become a problem solver. Na kung saan sila ang magdi-discover o mag-create ng kanilang ideas and understanding about the topic na tinuturo natin. As in typical na turo. Kaya nga po yung sa picture na yan, may hawak na stick ang teacher. Kasi for example, she is teaching the language. Tapos ginagamitan niya ng sound chart. I-point out niya lang yun. Kagaya nung in-explain ko po kanina, most of the time, magpo-point out lang ang teacher. For example, nag-point out lang siya sa isang pinto. Doon, magdi-discover na, mag-create na ng understanding ang students. Anong gusto niya parating ni ma'am? Maaaring gusto niya na ako ay gumawa ng praise about dyan sa pinto na yan. Maaaring sabihin na student, a door, a brown door, a black door, a wood door. Diba? Doon pa lang makikita natin na may different perception ang ating mga estudyante. And doon pa lang nakakapagbuo tayo ng quality education sa ating estudyante despite our silence. So for the next part, we have the peer correction. Peer correction. Na kung saan itatama. Na kung saan parang mako-correct. Hindi pala itatama. Mako-correct ng student ang kaniyang kapwa student without him, without his awareness, without him knowing na kinorek ko pala yung aking classmate. Ito nga po yung isa pa sa maganda sa The Silent Way. Hindi competitiveness ang gustong ma-emphasize ng teacher dito, but to provide a collaborative teaching. Now for our next typical technique, we have the peer correction. So what does peer correction means? From the word peer, which means friends, if you're in school, it can also mean your classmate, your friend. Diba? Someone that you can rely on or someone that you've trusted from the word peer. And from the word correction naman po, it means that when someone made a mistake, someone needs or someone correct them or someone correct him or her. But here in the silent way approach, peer correction happens in a collaborative and cooperative way rather than competitive. Paano po? Kasi po, for example, or for instance, nasa isang classroom sila. Tapos po, di ba po yung teacher most of the time, nagtuturo lang siya through some stick na point out lang niya sa isang color or what, or maaring maghawak lang siya ng object, or maaring yung sa rod, merong instruction doon, but sometimes, hindi lahat nakakasunod. So, that is when peer correction happens. Na kung ano yung nasa isip ng isang estudyante, hindi siya sigurado. So, parang kailangan niya ng approval or kailangan pa niya ng isa pang tao na may kapareho niya ng pangunawa para mais yung feeling niya na tama naman pala yung nasa isip ko. So, ganun po nangyayari. Nagkakaroon ng questioning na kung saan magtatanong yung student sa kanyang classmate na ganito ba yan? Ganito ba yung pakaintindi mo? Tama ba yung pakaintindi ko na ito palang color blue na to ay it symbolize the letter A or it symbolize the letter B? Tapos sabihin nung classmate niya, I thought it symbolized letter C kasi ganang-ganan. Tapos magkakaroon na ng reasoning. Then doon pa lang magkakaroon ng realization yung one of them kapag nagkaroon sila ng reasoning sa isa't isa. Tama pala yung classmate ko. Na ganun nga pala yung sinisimbolize tong gusto nung color na yun or ganun pala yung gustong iparating ng teacher namin. Tapos maaari din mangyari iyan ay when the teacher said to one of the student, for example, yung student nagsalita ng isang sentence or ng isang word, tapos nahalata ng teacher na, you have a British accent, diba? Tapos yung some of the students will have a realization na naman na, ganun pala yung British accent. Akala ko ganito, tama yung pagkakainig ko, pero hindi pala. Ganun pa rin parang tunog ng British accent. Ayon na rin din sa teacher ko. Doon pala magkakaroon na ulit ng correction na, ganun pala. Magkakaroon ng realization. But not in a competitive way, rather in a cooperative and collaborative way. Next is the rods. We have the rods, which is, it is an object na kung saan, kung papansin niyo may iba't ibang color po ito. Meron ding iba't ibang sizes. So, itong rods na ito ay ginagamit in different ways or in different situation. Depende sa teacher. Maaring gamitin to sa ginagamit ang rods, maaari for instruction or maaari din gagamitin yung rod, pagsusunod-sunod din yung rod, i-organize yung rod, na kung saan yung different colors ng rod ay may sinisimbolize na isang letter. So, depende sa pagkakasunod-sunod ng rods, yun yung gustong iparating na word ng teacher. For example, tinayong rod ng teacher ay red, blue, yellow, green. Yung red ay ang letter na S, tapos yung red, blue ay H, yellow ay O, green ay T. Kapag ganun yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng teacher, ano kaya yung mabubuong word doon? S-H-O-T. Maaring mabuo ang salitang shot. Diba? Ganun po yung maaring gamit nung rod, maaari din naman gamitin ito to assemble something na yung inassemble na iyon ay isang object or magmumukhang isang object, magmumukhang isang floor plan. For example, floor plan ng isang bahay na kung saan may inassemble na rod na nagmukhang isang parte ng ating bahay, which is the kitchen. Pinagmukhang table, pinagmukhang chair, pinagmukhang refrigerator. Tapos ang gagawin ng student doon, syempre, they need to observe that objects or that assembled rods. Ano ba yung gusto iparating nitong rods na ito? Ano parang puzzle na ito? Ano kaya ito? Parang mukha siyang table, mayroong chair. Pero ito naman mukha naman itong refrigerator. Then doon magka-create sila ng understanding na, para siyang parte ng bahay, which is the kitchen part of our house, di ba? So, yun po. Alam niyo rin po ba na itong rod na ito, hindi lang siya tinuturo to teach the language, but also, ginagamit ito ng teacher to teach the mathematics. Kaya kung mapapansin po natin, may different sizes yung rods. Kasi po, each sizes ay may different centimeters, na kung saan ginagamit din ng teacher to teach his or her students about the different sizes in centimeters. So the next one is we have the self-correction gestures. So ito na pong self-correction gestures kasi nga po tayo ay most of the time the teacher is silent. Kaya po parang ang mas ginagawa niya is different gestures. Hindi lang dito sa fingers. Maaaring gumanto siya, which means okay, thumbs up, thumbs down. Maaaring gumanto ang teachers, which can also mean, can you elaborate? Can you give an example, another example? Tapos dito naman po sa self-correction gestures, kung mapapansin niyo sa picture, gumagamit naman po ng fingers. For instance, yung isang teacher, sabi niya sa estudyante niya, can you give an example or a sentence na nag-include ng isang object na pinakita niya? For example, ang pinakita niyang object ay ang bottle. Tapos, ang ginawang sentence ng student, the boy bought an bottle. The boy bought an bottle. Tapos, na-realize ng teacher, parang may mali dun sa construction ng sentence ng aking estudyante. So, sinabihan niya yung estudyante niya na, can you please repeat your sentence? Tapos, yun na nga, habang iniimik ng estudyante yung sentence, parang ang sinisimbolize nung bawat finger yung each word sa sentence. For example, pinaslow down niya yung student. Tapos, sinimik ulit ng estudyante, the boy bought an bottle. The boy bought an bottle. Tapos, tinuro to ni teacher, which is the word an. Sabi niya, wrong. Wrong daw yung an. Can you please change another? Tapos biglang sabi ng estudyante, the boy bought a bottle. Tapos kapag gumanto si teacher, ibig sabihin, tama yung sagot ng estudyante. Then, magkakaroon ng realization and understanding ng estudyante na, oo nga, yung bottle nga naman ay nagsisimula sa consonant. So, dapat ang gagamitin ko ay A, not an. Dahil ginagamit ang an kapag vowel. Diba? So, kung papansin nyo, maaaring mas matagal yung pagtuturo ng teacher kasi nga, most of the time, she or he is silent. Nagkakaroon lang ng interaction between him and his students through gestures or through some small talks to give an instruction. But most of the time, he is silent. Diba? And for the next typical technique, we have the word chart. So, as you can see, yung words po dito ay may different colors. So, ito pong mga colors na ito ay dumedepende pa rin doon sa color chart or doon sa sound chart na ipinakita ko kanina. Na kung saan nga yung bawat colors na yun ay nagsisimbolize ng each letter. So, ito na po yun. Ito na po yung each letter na sinasabi ko. Kaya may different color po siya. So, for example, itong A, siya pala ay light yellow. Tapos yung word na rod, siya pala ay orange, which is letter R, symbolize letter R. O is white, and D is green. Tapos, ang maaari po mangyari dito, maaari pa rin magturo si teacher doon sa sound color chart. Kapag ang tinuro ni teacher ay orange, white, green, ano mabubuong word mo? Rod. Tapos, ang pwedeng gawin ni student dyan, hanapin yung salita or yung word na rod dyan. Tapos, dito naman po sa word chart na ito, maaari din magturo si teacher ng each word. Tapos ang gagawin ng students, they need to discover or create an understanding kung ano ba yung gustong iparating ni teacher. For example, ang tinuro ni teacher dito ay the two rod. Tapos dinagdagan niya ng isang S. The two rods. Ibig sabihin, maaaring sagot ng student, the two rods po. Diba? The two rods. Tas ang tinuro naman ni teacher, this is a black rod. This is a black rod. So, syempre, ang tuturo ulit ng teacher, this is a black rod. She can only repeat it once. Kaya kailangan maging alert and concentrate talaga yung estudyante sa kanyang teacher na sa gayon ay makasagot siya or maalaman niya kung ano ba yung gustong iparating ng teacher, kung ano yung sentence na binubuo ng teacher sa pag-point sa bawat word na nasa word chart. Diba? Kung papansin po ninyo, mas challenging talaga. But, it provides a quality education kasi nga po, hindi nagmamadali si teacher. Hindi siya nagmamadali sa pagtuturo niya. Ang mas gusto po ni teacher is matuto ang estudyante niya kahit pa mabagal ito, kahit gradually pa. For the next one, we have the Fidel chart. So, ito naman pong Fidel chart na ito, kung papansin nyo po ay merong list of words or letters na pare-pareho ang kulay. So, sa bawat letters and words na may pare-parehong kulay, sila po yung may same or similar sounds. For example, meron pong word dyan na 3 and 3. 3 and 3. And kasamahan din nila dito yung E. E3, 3. Ibig sabihin pare-pareho yung colors nila because they have that similar sound, which is the E sound. Tapos yun po, dito po sa Fidel chart na ito, ginagamit po ito ng teacher to help his or her students sa spelling. Diba? Kasi nga po may mga words na dito. Tapos malalaman din ng mga estudyante na, ito palang word na ito ay may E sound, may A sound, may AE sound, may OU sound. OU sound, tour. Diba? Tour. So, kapag nakita ng estudyante na ang OU sound, tapos mayroon pang word na tour, kasamahan pala nito. Ibig sabihin sila pala yung may similar sound. Yung tour pala, hindi lang basta U sound. Dapat ay OU sound from its spelling na tour. T-O-U-R. Di po ba? So, ito nga po yung Fidel chart. So, for our next one, we have the structured feedback. Structured feedback. So, after the lesson po, lagi po nagkakaroon ng conclusion or reflection ang bawat student na kung saan magtatawag ang teacher, kung sino maaari mag-share ng kanyang feedback about sa natutunan niya ngayong araw. And dun sa feedback naman na ginagawa ng student, syempre structured feedback yun. Ibig sabihin, hindi yung basta-basta feedback na, mag-aayos naman po yung aking araw ngayon na marami po akong natutunan. No. Dapat yung feedback na ibibigay ng student ay may laman. Meron talagang understanding about sa lesson. For example, mas napadali po ako sa matuto ng language gamit ang word chart kasi po sa word chart dito po nakalagay na yung salita or yung word, tapos in different colors pa po siya. Nakikita ko po na yung brown po pala ay it symbolizes the letter F, tas yung blue po pala ay sinisimbolize ang letter O. Yun po. Ganun po yung structured feedback. Reflection po talaga sa kung ano ba yung natutunan ng estudyante sa araw na iyon. Na kung saan, syempre dapat we have a honest feedback. Na sa gayon po, alam din ng teacher kung ano ba yung dapat pa niyang i-improve sa kanyang instructional materials, ano pa yung dapat niyang i-improve na sa gayon mas matuto pa yung estudyante niya sa kaniyang lesson. So, ayun po. And that is our last typical techniques. Thank you. I hope that all of you learned something from our report. Thank you.